Okay, perfect. And we are live. Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Plant the Spike, a Valorant podcast focused specifically on the VCT Americas region and other North American Valorant. My name is Lance, and I'm joined by my bronze co-host Styx. Styx, how are you doing tonight?
I'm still bronze 1, so I'll take it. No, I am good. I am tired, but we are thriving right now, so can't complain.
Thriving, we are. It is a different night if you're watching this live. So, shout out to our one viewer at the moment who's watching us live. Hopefully, we'll double that next time and get some more in there. But thank you so much for tuning in, and whether you're watching this live or in the future, we appreciate you. This is only episode 3, and there's still plenty of room to grow. We're learning how to do this differently every time. As you can tell, I'm in a different place, different location. Got sent off to the bedroom this time to be a little less annoying. So, no,
Got banished to the bedroom.
it's
Normally, you get banished to the couch.
that's true.
So
Normally,
it's like
people
a
do.
reverse Uno card here.
What can I say? Not my relationship is special. It is. It's the first time that both my wife and I are at home, and we she's not doing something else while I'm recording this. So I figured, she should probably have the living room in our tiny one bedroom apartment, and I'll take the cozy bedroom where it's not quite as fun. But alas, we are merely just vamping, making noise until we can get to the news of tonight. So, if you're not familiar and if you're watching this in the future, this is normally going to be a call in show where if you have a take that you want to bring up on the show, bring up live with us, you absolutely can. You can join our Discord, which is going to be linked in the show notes below, as well as it is also going to be linked in the chat as well. So, definitely take a look at that. Join us if you can. And yeah, that once we get people joining in live, it won't be quite as formatted the way that it is, where Styx and I kind of just talk about the news that's coming up and things that are happening in the scene. We'll actually be able to kind of talk more in depth about, what people might think about G2 winning it all again this time, or EG almost making the miracle run through the lowers, whatever it may be. Blemish, shout out there, throwing it in the chat for us. So yeah, if you guys are watching the VOD on this as well, definitely come and check it out. We'd love to have you on and talk with you about Valorant. Some of the news in this past week, the biggest news of all, obviously, is the fact that playoffs are finally over, in half of the regions at least.
Yeah.
So VCT Americas and VCT China have finally concluded playoffs. I say finally, even though Pacific is going to finish up this weekend and EMEA is only starting this weekend. Um, what, do you have any thoughts on the schedule? I know we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but it seems to me that, somebody maybe dropped the ball on syncing everybody up.
I think definitely it's a little weird to have like the playoffs ending and Toronto starting. Like it feels weird
Right.
for it to be so far apart for each region. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like EMEA wasn't the original schedule that they were going to be done a week earlier, but they had the whole tech pause issue thing that
No,
they had to
so
get sorted.
that's the
Or was this
crazy
always
thing.
the plan?
There was always a week break in the middle there, and that week break was fortunately built in so that they were able to
Yeah,
take that time to get the tech pause stuff figured out. But they were always going to be ending the latest out of everybody.
that's so weird. I'm sorry. Like that's weird. Like obviously we saw like at least for VCT China in Bangkok how it didn't really matter for them, but also it's VCT China. So like
Right.
but the thing is like we don't know realistically like how it'll actually affect them this time, I feel like. Cuz I mean a lot
Yeah.
can change still. But then also aren't they going to be playing on a different patch question mark in
Yes. S-
Toronto?
So here's
Cuz
the
they get
thing.
more time practicing on that patch then.
Yeah. exactly right. So here's the thing with it, right? Is you have roughly, I believe the math works out to, uh, the finals were on the 4th, right? The uh, Toronto doesn't start until, I put it in the note here. Toronto doesn't start until the 7th of
The
June.
7th, yeah.
You literally have 33 days or 34 days technically, um, to just practice and drill in your new roles and everything. Because yeah, like you said, they're going to be playing on a new patch, and not only is it a new patch, it's the patch that Tejo is finally getting nerfed. So
Thank goodness.
yeah, so it would be a little different if it wasn't going to be anything huge, but like Tejo's basically the goal is to nerf him into the ground. Like he's going to be very niche now, where he might not even get picked for any of the maps, but he's essentially going to, like, those rockets, he's only going to have one and you have to buy the other
Oh,
one.
that's right.
The cooldown's going to be really weird on them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So you have a team like G2, team like Sentinels, that exactly like you said, it's not VCT China, and it's not any shade at VCT China. It's just, you know, Trace came in and put up a stinker with all of that, prep that they had. And I think that it's pretty safe to say G2 is not anywhere near the level that Trace is. And now you're
No.
giving G2 almost 5 weeks.
It's so OP. It's so OP. Because not only G2, I feel like we have so many powerhouses that are going to Toronto from
Right.
Americas. Like, you have Sentinels, you have MIBR, you have G2. Like, you have Sentinels and MIBR. Oh, wait, no, not MIBR. I guess OSPOS specifically are champions.
Right.
Like, they have won international tournaments before.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have these powerhouse teams that now get even more time before Toronto. Like, how does this make sense? Like,
Yeah.
the math isn't mathing.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we can maybe, expect from this last week's results going into Toronto. Thankfully, we also have almost 5 weeks to have podcasts leading up to Toronto, to kind of speculate on what it'll look like. But yeah, I kind of think that, let's leave it at that for the moment, just in the sense that we'll have to see how this event goes. But if this event goes in the way that everybody thinks it will, where America's could potentially, unless they get put up against each other, could potentially be a top three, like all three. You know
I'm
what I
just
mean?
scared that Sentinels are gonna go out in two again.
I get that.
I don't think they will this time because they have looked a lot stronger than they
Yeah,
did last time,
exactly.
but still. And I feel like them getting to Toronto by beating G2 again. I talked about this last time as well. It's like them beating G2 is going to be huge for them. I feel like going through Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it gives everybody a little bit more hope in the sense that they actually can beat these really good teams. They
Yeah.
didn't just beat 100 Thieves and Crew, and not that Crew's a bad team necessarily, but they're not as good as
Well, the way
G2.
they've been playing.
Yeah. And we could talk a little bit more about Crew as well, because we actually have, something about them once we get to the stage 2 group draws, at the end. But yeah, I just thought I think it's so interesting. I've heard a few people talk about this, and I'm not online that much, like on Twitter and things like that, so I'm not, listening to what the people are saying. But it seems like everybody's kind of the same mind that, there's a very strong chance that, you know, this kind of just rules for for them, and they kind of just take over with it. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. It'll just depend on how it plays out, and we'll have to wait and see on that. Speaking of waiting and seeing how it plays out, the roster moves are already beginning, getting ready for stage 2. We had some not necessarily shocking moves, I would say. Uh, but so far, there's 2 announced at least, where with Leviathan and, NRG. So we'll touch on the Leviathan one first. If you were a caller and you were going to call in, one of the things you could be talking about might be, this is going to make Leviathan the best team ever, or hey, Leviathan just tanked their entire stage 2. That's something that you could talk about. So join us next week and you can let us know what you think about it. But Sticks, since it's just you and me, what do you think about it?
I think it's the right move. I like
Yeah,
Demon 1. I wanna see him succeed. I just don't think it was gonna be with this team, and especially this team wants to win, and
right.
they're not gonna do it with Demon 1, at least not right now.
Yeah,
Um, might be a case of right team, wrong time
sure.
kind of thing for him, like, he might come back in the future, like who was it? There was, one of the players that went back down to tier 2 and then came back up to tier 1 and is demolishing now. Who was it? Do you know? I can't remember
Um,
if it's Americas or EMEA.
well, there's a few teams that's happened to. Like for example, Ye kind of had that trajectory. He was in tier
I
two, went
I
to
think that's who
Pacific,
I'm
came.
thinking of.
There's a few players who have done that. Cowan Zine, I think, is another one, or maybe he's a rookie. We're VCT enjoyers people. We're not VCT analysts. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I think that could be a possibility, and I think it might be good if he did that. I'm not saying that's what he's gonna do, because obviously I don't know, and I feel like he
sure.
wants to stay close to the tier 1 scene. Um, but I don't know. I feel like him going back to tier 2 for a year would be a good move, honestly.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I think that it was pretty apparent just kind of how the team operated that something just wasn't working. So yeah, the news basically is that yeah, they've dropped Demon 1. He's officially been, off the team. He's not coming back for sure. And then on top of that, they've also chosen to bench Rossi.
That
Um
one doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, and I honestly couldn't find anything about it. I was looking again because I'm not online. I wasn't really able to find why that was the case. If I had to guess, it would probably, let me see, has moved on from, well, actually, in this article that I'm reading now on VLR, it says that they completely have moved on from him.
Really?
Well, let's see. Both will remain under contract with the ability, being able to explore other options. But the former, which is Demon 1, will move to the reserve roster. So maybe I had it backwards. They've,
Other way around.
let's see. Yeah, it just seems odd. Um, yeah, it doesn't make sense with Rossi because he kind of was a player that they needed in the sense of he brought a lot of energy to the team. It seemed but maybe that energy just wasn't mixing with the people that they already had.
I
And
feel like it would be a similar situation to what it was at C9 then, right? Because that's why he got dropped from C9, because he was really good,
right,
but he just didn't vibe well with the team, supposedly.
yeah, that's the rumor.
Yeah, that was the reasoning given anyways. We don't know whether or not that was all that happened or whatever, but still.
Yeah, the question becomes then, it just seems so odd. You make this change where you drop two of your biggest players, and what this does, I guess, is it opens them up so where they can finally pick up people who actually match the roles that they need, because that was part of the issue, is that they had too many. They had Tex and Demon 1, both were duelists technically,
And Kane.
or yeah, and King rather. Yeah, so I mean, you had all these players basically that were overlapping roles, and it just didn't really make sense why they had everybody. It seemed like they picked them up, Rossi for example, because they wanted to make a change, and he was kind of all that was available. And so you're maybe running into the same situation now where you're getting rid of everybody, or everybody. You're getting rid of 2/5 of your team, and now all of a sudden you have to scramble and you have to see who's available either in the tier two who will come up, or who's a free agent. And thankfully you have 2 or 3 months to do it, but still, it seems like they're chalked for stage two.
Yeah.
So
Don't expect anything good coming from Lev this year.
no, and again we can talk about them a little bit later. At least they are in Group Omega for stage two.
It's true.
That might be helpful, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's still it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a hard road for them to get there. Um, Another team that is going to have a hard road, I mentioned it earlier. NRG has also made roster moves. They have at this moment only dropped their coach, who came in, if I'm not mistaken, about halfway through or near the end of last season when they were struggling, and couldn't even make it a full year. And the rumor is that not only have they dropped their coach, but there's potential now that with this coach gone, and the thought is that they might be bringing back Bonkar, who was their old coach that they had. They might be bringing him back, and with him coming back, will probably mean that FNS or somebody else is gonna get the boot. Um,
FNS, FNS.
yeah,
I want him gone.
why do you think the
I
FNS
just
should be
I
gone?
I just don't like him. He's fallen off. Pack it
You
up,
think so?
grandpa. Get out of here.
Gosh, you're such a zoomer.
I really am. I don't care. It's just whatever he's been doing recently has not been working for NRG. We've seen it.
Right.
They've not been a good team for a minute now. And I don't want to say it's all because of FNS because really they've just not had the tools to succeed. I feel like FNS is part of those tools that did not help them succeed.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are so many better IGLs out there currently. Obviously, FNS is a legend. He used to be phenomenal, like really good IGL.
Hmm.
But currently, I'd put him near the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
Like the way he's been calling this season specifically.
Yeah. I'd agree with that, and I think that he's definitely. I don't think he'll admit it, but he has definitely fallen off this season in comparison to past seasons.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that.
I think
And
he'd be great for another team like Furia or 2G. Not that either of them would pick him up because they're Brazilian, but
right.
it's still like it's one of those things I feel like he'd be really good for a different team. It's just with this current team, he is not doing well. Maybe it's the coaches, maybe it's the teammates. I don't know. Maybe he's just gonna be done with VCT. Like you never know.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
that's if he's even the player that's getting dropped. To be fair, we
well,
don't
yeah,
know.
exactly. All this is rumored. He to be fair, he has been co-streaming. So since Energy got knocked out of playoffs, he has been co-streaming both Americas and Pacific. And I believe the stats I saw in his last Pacific co-stream was he was pulling about 40K viewers. So he's got some money left in there. People want to watch
I think
him.
he's a great streamer. I like
Yeah,
watching his streams.
yeah.
I don't like watching him play.
No, totally. Yeah, and I think that that's gonna just be time will tell. Time will tell if that's gonna
Yeah.
be the best thing for him or what it might be. But yeah, that at the very least with Mike's being gone, the original head coach, some things gonna have to change with whoever comes in, no doubt about that. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what it ends up being.
Yeah, he
But
used to be coach for your team.
he used to be coach for 100 Thieves. He used to be, yeah, well, and he did not do very good for 100 Thieves.
No, I was reading the comments on the article and everyone's like, "Dang, he sucked on 100 Thieves."
Yeah, everybody was pretty shocked that he even got the call to go to NRG. The thought is
Yeah.
that he ended up getting the call because he was kind of one of the only coaches available at the time, at the very least in Americas. So
Yeah.
uh,
Fair enough.
it is what it is. But let's talk about some more recent history. Let's talk about the teams from this last week. So last week was the last week of playoffs. There was only 4 teams left playing in VCT Americas, with a total of 5 games, if I counted correctly. Yeah, 2 on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, yep,
Wait.
that makes sense. Or was there only 4?
No. It was
Oh yeah,
just the
there's only
4
4.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday because it was the 2 on Friday and then the
That's right.
2 finals
Saturday,
Saturday,
Sunday.
Sunday.
Perfect. Um, the team that I wanted to start off talking about was not the team that went out first, but the first game of Friday, which was sent in GT, sent in MIBR. My bad.
Mhm.
That upper semifinals, deciding who was going to go to the grand finals right away.
Yeah.
Um, in my mind, so MIBR didn't beat Sentinels, didn't beat G2. They looked kind of, they didn't necessarily look lost, I don't want to say, because they did take
No.
both games close. Um, they were 2-0s.
Well, Sentinels Lotus wasn't close. Close?
Sure. But I mean, like, then to come back from that and go 13-11 and split, I mean,
That's true. No, that was a good game.
yeah.
Sentinels MIBR split was good.
And to be fair, they did take a game off G2. So it was
Yes.
one, final was 3-1 that way. So I guess my thought is, you know, this is our third team going to Toronto. What, you know, what do they need to improve from your perspective to have a decent showing at Toronto? Or can you, what do you think about them going into Toronto?
I feel like I don't think MIBR are gonna win given their recent showings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do think they're gonna do well.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that's a given just based on, the fact that they have done well in the past, and I feel like maybe they just need a little bit of a break to work through whatever it is that's been not working for them, whatever that may be. Because obviously, I don't really know what's not been working for them.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, because they didn't look bad. That's the thing.
Right.
I don't think I was watching this match at all and thought, dang, like they look really bad right now. I feel like it was just unfortunate that the other teams were just better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you look at the stats for MIBR versus Sen, like I wouldn't say that any of these, considering the score lines, I wouldn't say that any of these are like particularly egregious. But
Yeah.
then you look at Sen and you're like, dang, like Sen was popping off. Like of all the players on Lotus, Zelsis was the only one to go negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Split, again, Zelsis was the only one to go negative. Like, but then when you look at MIBR, it was more than one person went negative. And so it's one of those things where it's like they performed decently, Sen
Yeah.
just performed better. And so I feel like if they perform decently or good even, I feel like they're gonna get pretty far.
Yeah. No, that's kind of my thought with them as well. It's not that they did poorly, it's just that the other teams maybe outperformed them a bit.
Yeah.
Um and at that point, what are you going to do? It's just how the day went. The
Yeah.
good thing is, you have this team that's Ospas and the rookies, and now, they've experienced a finals, they've experienced a grand final. Well, that's sorry, they didn't quite make the grand finals yet.
Not great. A best of five.
But they have a best of 5 under the belt, exactly. And now they're going to go to an international and get that experience as well. Um, it seems to me that, this is maybe the best case scenario for MIBR. They're coming in, they're not having a ton of expectations put on their shoulders. It's kind of, they can try to keep doing what they've been doing, just set things up for Ospas, keep on reminding him that he doesn't have to carry, but he can just kind of
Yes.
keep playing his game, and his game is enough. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it seems like maybe this is the best case scenario from everything I can see. I think that this is going to serve them well. I think this is exactly what they should be doing. Um, I don't know that there's necessarily a ton to talk about MIBR with, just because in my opinion there wasn't really anything that stood out from them this weekend, which isn't any shade
I
on
yeah,
them.
I'd agree.
It's just kind of how their weekend went. It like you
Yeah.
said, they showed up, the other teams showed up better. It's just how it goes. Um, the next team though is, I think, this was one of the best. I mean, it was one of the most hyped games of
It was
the.
so good.
I I was on the edge of my seat with this game. G2 versus EG. Sadly, we ended up with EG
Oh.
just at the edge, just like the other two teams before them, just barely, being able to push them, or not being able to push them over the edge. Um, and G2 pulls it out on Pearl again, of all places, which I think it's wild to me that they keep on getting away with this. Pearl gets floated, and they end up just closing it there. Um, Before I kind of get into a few things that I was thinking about, do you have, what are your thoughts both on the game but just on EG's season as a whole from stage 1?
I think EG started shaky, but they finished so strong. I feel like it would have been awesome to see them in Toronto, obviously,
Yeah.
but I also feel like even just getting as far as they did, given how their kickoff went, given how stage 1 went for them, like this is going to be huge for them. I feel like they're going to come into stage 2 really strong. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because they looked so strong against G2, which is crazy when you consider, like, at the beginning of the season, I never would have said Oh yeah, EG versus G2. That's gonna go to 3. They're all gonna be close games. I would have said no, GT's gonna blow them out of the water. It's gonna be like a 13-5 or whatever.
Oh,
But no,
absolutely.
like I feel like there is no world in which EG should have made it this close.
Yeah.
I would have said that at the beginning of the season. Obviously, we've seen a much different team recently. But I loved that match. I was driving, so I was listening to it.
Yeah, you weren't even able
But
to watch it.
yeah, but I was like listening to it. I was so hype. I was telling you I was yelling in the car. I'm sure
Yeah.
people thought I was insane. But I had a 3-hour drive. Leave me alone. It's fine.
People can think you're insane all they want. I think that the main story for EG is the fact that we finally got to see the formula that was advertised to us at the beginning of the season, right? We get Ye with his comeback to VCT Americas, and we get Icy with his chance, with the chance with his old team, because he used to be in EG Academy, and we finally see them coming together in the way that we thought that they might, right? This is pretty close to the ceiling that I expected this team to have. But what's crazy is after watching this game and after watching their run through playoffs, I don't think this is the ceiling for them any longer. I think that their
No.
ceiling is considerably higher. Um, and it's going to be pretty insane. I think that what we'll see in stage two, and this is all speculation just based off of the nerfs that we expect to come through and the patch changes and things like that, but it seems like coming into the next stage it's going to be considerably like more strategy heavy, which as we all know is kind of Potter's playground, where she can kind of help the team figure out the cool picks, the weird picks, the off meta picks that actually work both for the team and kind of just stonewall the other teams. So I would expect, and we'll actually see this in stage two because they're going to play a best of three in group stage at the very least. I think the G2 EG game is totally going to be one that we're going to have to watch because
I think it'll be so good.
it's going to be amazing. It's going to be just all the storylines coming together. It's going to be, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be good. So I am bummed that EG didn't make it. I think that it makes sense that G2 was able to pull it out just from, they have, and we'll get into this in a second, but they kind of just show time and time again that when things get crazy, when things get weird, when they're getting pushed, they can find a way to hold out until the very end. And they were just able to stay more consistent, and that's kind of all that they needed to do. Um, I'm excited though. I'm super excited for EG. I think that there's
I
that
am
there's
too.
some great things coming for them. And this stage made me a fan of EG for sure. So
I Yeah, it's one of those things. I never disliked DG, but this stage I definitely actually am rooting for them.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's been the difference this stage.
Yeah, totally. Um, let's talk about not the team that beat them. We'll talk about them at the end since they won it all. But let's talk about Sentinels since they made it to the grand finals. So they beat MIBR on Friday. They
Mhm.
have the day off, and then they make it to Sunday for the best of five for the title. And it's their second grand finals in a row, which at the beginning of the season, if you had told me that Sentinels was going to make it to back-to-back grand finals, I personally would have thought that you were crazy, just from the sense that, they lost a lot of key players, and I wasn't sure that the players they brought in were going to be the upgrades they needed. Proving me wrong. Narrates really started to show up.
Yeah.
And Zekin is even more on fire than he was. I think that Sentinels is looking really good, but they did fall short against G2. Um, what did you take away from this weekend for Sentinels? Did this, as a Sentinels fan, make you start to doubt at all, or was it
I don't know that I would say I doubt.
okay?
I Because again, I was listening to this match on the way home. Um so I think that their confidence is slightly shaky.
Okay.
I think especially after Haven went so poorly for them on their defense half.
Yeah.
They just like their confidence was shot. Because I mean they only won 2 defense rounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're never gonna feel good when that happens.
No, yeah,
Um,
that'll kind of that'll shoot you in the foot for sure.
yeah, but I mean, here's the thing.
Hmm.
Sentinels is similar to C9, how when C9 they'll look really strong and then they get to playoffs and then they'll fall off.
Okay.
Sentinels looks really strong in playoffs and then they get to international and then they fall off.
Right.
Um, I say this with love. They are my team, but that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried they're gonna fall off again. But
Hmm.
obviously, we don't know that because they always look so strong coming out of playoffs. So I'm hoping they do somewhat decently.
Yeah.
But I feel like because again, and we've said this about several of the teams, they didn't look bad. The other team just looked better.
Yeah.
Like
That kind of is a
that's
common
that's the
theme.
thing.
It's just what happens when you play against a team like G2. When you have a
Yes.
team that's as drilled and as on top of it and just kind of has the protocols for everything, it's going to feel like it's going to feel like you just played against the better team. And I mean, and we had all these teams push G2 and we had them push them all, push them to the edge, push them into multiple OTs, and Sentinels even beat them, at some point,
Yeah.
which I think is confidence nonetheless, even if you couldn't beat them in the end. You made them work for it at least. And I think that, unfortunately, that made them work for it. And so then they were able to come back stronger, than they were earlier on in the playoffs, where they
Yeah.
hadn't really been tested. So to me, it just feels like, Sentinels had a decent showing. They didn't get blown out on any of the maps. They kept it pretty tight, and they still had decent plays and decent players. Zekin still showed up and fragged out of his mind, and I think that Bang has been the unsung hero of Sentinels this
Oh,
season.
100%. He is solid.
Yeah, I think that without him, I think that this season, if they'd had a different controller, it definitely would have been, a very different
Yeah.
split for them.
I I think of all the players to replace tens,
Hmm.
I think Bane was their best option ever.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Like, because it comes down to the fact that not only is he just super talented, but it's also the fact that the team as a whole, like they mesh so well. And
Hmm.
I feel like he fits so perfectly into that if it had been anyone else, they would not be doing nearly as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I think that kind of segues us, pretty well, talking about just how good Sentinels did do, and they just went up against the better team. Well, might as well talk about that better team. G2 swept through the lowers. They had to, put in the time, put in the effort, because they did get beaten, and got shown that they weren't quite as strong as everybody thought they were. And then they came back and showed everybody that they were as strong as everybody thought they were.
Yes.
Um, it seems, we can get sucked into the not necessarily revisionist history of it all, but the recency bias of it all, that they won 3 matches in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to get to the stage 1 champions again. um but there were genuine questions about G2 after Sentinels lost and after the narrow win over 100 Thieves, and honestly probably after the narrow win over EG. um People definitely had questions about G2. So my question would be for you, and again, this is another example. Somebody could have brought this on the pod. So maybe next week you have a take that you want to share. But who would you attribute the MVP of this team to, that kind of brought them back from that brink to the point where they are now, where we're like, oh yeah, that's right, G2 is the best team.
Uh, I would say Leaf. I don't think that's
Hmm.
controversial at all. I think just in general, and it's always said, it's like if Leaf gets online,
Hmm.
G2 is going to do really well. Like that's kind of one of the he is that player that is the difference maker.
Yeah.
If he gets online, G2 is going to put up one heck of a fight.
Yeah.
Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I feel like he's really that difference maker for them. So I feel like that's why I would call him the MVP, is because if he is online, he is doing phenomenally, and it makes the rest of the team do really well too.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's not shocking that you'd say Leaf. I think you honestly could make a case for any of these players.
Oh,
So
$100%.
I don't think it's crazy if you were to say anybody's name. For me, um, it comes down to Josh RT. It comes down to the coach for sure, because I think that I might be making this up, but I'm pretty sure I heard an interview about him kind of talking about what they had to go through after that loss to Sentinels, and he kind of just put his nose to the grindstone and really, really went deep into figuring out, hey, where are we messing up? Or not even where are we messing up, but where can we get better? Where can we continue to improve? Where can we cut out those little things that are pushing us to the point where we lost against Sentinels, we almost lose against 100 Thieves? Where do we need to tighten it up? And you can tell in this final match against Sentinels, they tightened it up. There was
Yes.
no gaps in their armor. I mean, they lost on Pearl, but again, they still almost came back and pulled the G2 special of coming back on Pearl. And so I think that, for me at least, that Josh RT deserves the majority of the praise for that, because
Oh,
he's
100%.
he's been able to kind of pull them through and make it to now that they are the undefeated best, or undisputed best team.
I'd like to add an addendum to my MVP statement.
Okay,
I feel like Trent would be the other one I would put up there as far as players go, because
totally.
Trent is always in those clutch scenarios, and I want to say, at least 80% of the time comes out of them on top.
Oh yeah,
Like anytime I'm watching a G2 match, and if there is a 1v2 or 1v3 even scenario, and Trent is the one, I'm like, oh, like G2 is gonna get the round. Like that's the expectation I go into those rounds with. I'm like, yeah, it's a 2v1, or yeah, it's a 3v1, but it's Trent. Like
totally.
he's gonna get that.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Just if you want to be totally stats pilled, and if you want to look at just the numbers of it all, I mean, Trent finished top of the leaderboard above well, and this actually, I want to get to this as well in a second, but finished at top of the leaderboard. First kills to first death was +7, which
Yeah, that's insane.
out of the 15 times he swung, he got the first kill 11 times, which is that yeah, that is an insane stat, I think. Um it's not maybe the most insane, but in a play, in a game like this where it's the first against the second best team, you would expect it to be a little bit more even. And then even going
Yeah.
into the 1v1s, 1v2s, I mean, he won six of those that he was involved in. So he definitely kind of, I think he's maybe cemented himself as the best player this stage. And it helps that he was on the Tejo a lot of the time. He was kind
Oh,
of
100.
able to
He only played Tejo for a hot minute, right?
he only plays Tejo right now. Like he
Well, yeah.
in that series, he played all four maps. He played Tejo, so
Yeah.
he is arguably the best Tejo in the world, I would say. So it's going to be interesting to see what G2 does going into Toronto, if Tejo is nerfed as hard as we think he will be.
Yeah,
Um,
all of playoffs he's been playing Tejo. That's it.
yeah,
That's his only agent.
right. And it's not because he can't play other agents. It's just
Oh
because he's
no.
just OP on Tejo.
Yeah, because
So
Tejo's OP.
exactly, yes. So it kind of works a little bit both ways. But the other point that I wanted to say as well, and then maybe we can move on from G2 unless you have something else. But I wanted to just point out, and I think we said this last week as well, that it's, to me, the key to having a good team is if you are able to have a duelist that people know is one of the best, right? We're talking about Jogamo here. One of the best, if not, top five on most people's list in the world at the very least. Um, you have somebody like Jogamo who actually went negative this whole series.
Yeah, which is wild.
It is wild, but I guess my thought with that is that, like, you have a player like him who is doing his job as a duelist of making space so well that he doesn't have to get all the kills. He's not an
Yeah.
Ospas where he's gonna, either make the space or get the kills, and chooses to get the kills, right? He's a player that can do both. And we saw him throughout this whole playoffs. He was able to kind of he didn't have to be the one fragging out in order for his team to be good. And my whole thought with this is just that if you have somebody like Jogamo who, when he's frying, and the team just looks insane for it, um, then that's super helpful. But it's even more helpful when he doesn't have to fry, and the team is still just looking dominant like they are. So
Yeah.
just a little something that I think is going to be helpful going into Toronto, where it's going to be fast paced, and you aren't necessarily going to have those players doing their best all the time. Um, so might as well get what you can. So, all right, that's everything we have on these games at the very least. I'm not sure if there was anything else that you wanted to go over about the teams before we start talking about kind of the upcoming things that are upcoming, rather.
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
Cool. All right. Perfect. Well, so normally in this part of the show, we'd start talking about the upcoming games. For VCT Americas, obviously, there are no upcoming games. They're off until Masters Toronto starts on June the 7th. And actually, I was trying to figure this out the other day, or earlier today, I should say. I was going to look up when the stage 2 is supposed to start. So we actually won't see some of these teams coming back until the 3rd of July. So
Dang, that's crazy.
So all of those except for MIBR, Sentinels, and G2 will have until the 3rd of July off. So I guess that, my thought with this is there's going to be tons of episodes between now and Toronto. So if you're tuning into or if you're watching this after the fact, after we've, gone offline, and you're able to join us next Tuesday for when we do go live again, basically the next couple of weeks, this is the time where we can really start talking about hot takes for Masters Toronto. We can start talking about hot takes for who we think is going to be maybe the dark horse coming into stage 2, different things like that. So if you have a take that you want to talk about, then join our Discord so that next week when we go live Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, you can join us and you could talk with us. And we could see if we agree or not. In the meantime, while we're thinking about stage 2, those games won't be happening until July 3rd, but we know the groups, and so we know who's at least going to be playing against who. This is one of the most insane things I have ever seen.
I am shocked.
As a 100 Thieves fan, hey, I'm here for it.
You are living right now. That's the problem.
If NRG and
You got
Lev
lucky.
if Energy and Lev continue to look the way that they looked coming into stage 1, this is easily the best group to have.
Okay, let's tell them who all is in Group Omega, which is 100 Thieves Group, to put it into perspective.
Fair enough.
You have
Yes.
you have Crew, who has not looked good recently.
Mm-hmm.
You have MIBR, who is top 3 in America, so obviously that's going to be I'd say they're going to be first seed. You have 100 Thieves,
Mm-hmm.
who is not bad, but definitely not like dominating, I wouldn't say.
Right.
You have Energy, who is bad and is not dominating. You have Lev, who also is bad and just dropped 2 players. And then you have Loud, who is very hit or miss. They lost to 2G.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
100 Thieves got so lucky.
Yeah, Group
Because then
Omega's looking pretty nice.
Because then you look at Group Alpha, you
Right.
have G2, Sentinels, Cloud9, EG, and then 2G and Furia. Poor
Yeah.
2G and Furia. They are not going to do well.
No. If I'm 2G, I am absolutely pissed about this.
Yes.
I have a few thoughts about the stage 2 groups draw. The first is, let's talk about 2G, because in the partnership system, 2G, being the ascended team, needs to win enough games in order to get into playoffs, right? they have to at least get into playoffs in order to have a chance to be in VCT America's next season. Um, if they don't even make it into playoffs, then they're already knocked out, right? They don't get to defend their title. They don't get to do anything like that. They're just sent back home, and better luck next year. Go back to tier 2, try it again. That's insane. First off,
Yeah. It
because
happened to Apex. I'm sad. Or it's gonna happen to Apex.
it is going to happen to Apex as well, and it might happen to Gentlemates as well in EMEA.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, because well,
Oh,
we
they've not been, yeah, they've not been
we're not an
standalone.
EMEA podcast, but we can talk
Sorry,
about
my
the
bad.
fact that's okay. They also didn't make it into playoffs, and so because of that, they're looking pretty bad because of it. So
And Floor retired, so that's the other reason the Apex are 100% going back down to tier 2.
yes, I don't think we actually talked about that last week, which we should have because Floor is technically a North American player. But yeah,
I need her back here so bad.
yeah, she's taking the rest of the season off in order to take care of mental health and family stuff and things like that. So we wish
Yeah,
her the best for sure. Um,
100%.
Getting back to 2G, yeah, if I'm 2G, I'm pissed about this. The one good thing is that 2G has been at least on an upwards trajectory. The problem
100%.
now is that they're going to be playing against 4 of the best teams that we saw last split. C9 fizzled out in playoffs, but we know for sure that their regular season form is insane.
Yeah.
And EG was not good in regular season, but we know that their playoffs form was insane. So if we expect everybody to be on the upward trajectory, unfortunately, I think that 2G is going to be stuck in that 5th spot. Hopefully, that 2G Furia game is going to be wild.
I am rooting for 2G against Furia.
I hope they at least win one. I hope they take it
I
against
want
them.
that's why I want them to win one.
Yeah.
One of the other teams is gonna have to seriously fall off if they want any chance of winning anything else.
Exactly. And because yeah, again, for 2G, the only thing they need is they just need to make it to playoffs.
Yeah.
Um
They don't need to do well in playoffs, they just need to make it.
so theoretically, the best case scenario for them, they somehow, if they win against Furia and then somehow by a miracle win against G2, then that would technically put, if everybody else, wins, G2 wins against everybody else as expected, um, and things kind of play out that way. Technically, 2G could sneak into playoffs in that 4th spot. They'd probably have to beat another team as well.
That is like the biggest amount of hopium I have ever heard.
Oh no, it's not hopium.
2G winning against G2.
It's copium. It's not going to happen, but that would
I
kind of
don't
be
know,
the
maybe they've
best.
been doing some serious grinding in their break.
They're gonna have to do more than grinding. I think they're gonna have to somehow find a deity and
Yeah, I was gonna say start worshiping someone.
yes,
Hope it helps them.
they need to find a religion and they need to hope that that religion works for them because otherwise it's gonna be a very sad split for them.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, 2G, it sucks. I'm bummed for them. I think that it's gonna be tough, and I think that it's what are you gonna do about it? At the very least, the rest of Group Alpha is going to be really exciting to watch. I
Oh,
think that every
100%.
single
It's
Group
gonna be
Alpha
good
game,
matches.
yeah, I think every other Group Alpha game, except for the 2G and Furia games, are just going to be insane to watch. And I'll be really curious to see who ends up on top. Would be shocked if it's not, even in. I would be shocked if it's not the order that we see it right there.
Yeah, same. I wanna have hope and say Sentinels are gonna be able to beat G2 again, because obviously, like, we know they can.
Yeah,
So I feel like there is that possibility that Sentinels could take first seed in Group Alpha, but I don't think it's actually gonna happen. We'll just have to kind of see how they all come out of Toronto.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so then that's the good thing with having so many episodes between now and the beginning of stage 2. We can just kind of adjust our takes as we see fit as we kind of get closer to see if anybody makes any more roster moves, see what happens with kind of everybody's form as they go into Toronto, and things like that. Same thing with Group Omega. I mean, honestly, at first look, like I said, this group looks like the group that you want to be in, but there is a very strong chance that if Lev brings on some powerful pieces, if NRG brings on a piece that just fits well with the team, Loud looks like they're on the upswing. This group all of a sudden gets really scary, and it doesn't seem clear at that point who's going to be that fifth and sixth team that's going to miss out on playoffs.
I think based off of recent form, my top 3 for Group Omega, MIBR, 100 Thieves, and Loud.
Yeah, actually, I would be
I think I
shocked.
think I think Crew is on the downward trend as opposed to everyone else being on an upward right now.
Yeah, the vibes seem off at Crew. We
Yeah,
talked about that last
something's going
week.
on there.
Who knows what'll happen again? By the time we actually see them again, but they definitely seemed a little off. And I would not be shocked if Loud is not crushing once they come back. They've
Yeah.
give Luke Show 3 months to fit in
Oh
with the
my
team,
gosh.
and
That's too much time. He'll grow
it
too powerful.
it's gonna be scary. I keep on
Ugh.
seeing on my YouTube Valorant does the community posts of top ACS, top kill KDA, things like that. Luke Show only played for like 3 or 4 weeks. He is still the top ACS in
Is
all
he actually?
regions. Yeah,
In all regions?
yeah. I'll have to see if I can find the post really quick, but they keep on putting it out every week or whatever, and he is just
His
not.
top ACS 295.5.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But that's what I'm saying. Like, what are you gonna do?
Um, yeah.
If he shows up and he starts looking, how he was looking at the end of this last season, and he has more than 2 or 3 weeks to actually work with the team. Uh,
Oh, that kid.
yeah, it's gonna be scary. So, anyways, I think that I'm excited to see what happens with the groups. I think that there's a lot of people who, the big frustration I saw from the community is that we're gonna get some teams aren't gonna ever play each other, right?
Yeah.
100 Thieves never gonna play Furia, which is fine. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think they played last split, but I might be blanking out. At the
I don't think
100
so. I
Thieves
don't
isn't
know. I
gonna.
never really watched the Furia games, I'm not gonna lie.
That's fair. But yeah, like 100 Thieves isn't going to play C9, Sen, or G2 in the regular season, at the very least. And that's only my team, right? Same thing goes, like Sentinels isn't ever going to play Crew, Energy, Loud in the
I wanna
regular
see
season.
Sen play
Well, they played
Loud.
Energy, but yeah. So,
I wanna see Sen play Loud so bad.
yeah, and I think I'm talking out my butt actually right there because I don't remember what the games were or the groups
I
were
don't
last
either.
split. But my point, nonetheless, is that there are definitely some teams who are not going to be playing against each other, and it's kind of crazy that that's the case. um, I don't know. I don't know. They couldn't really have done it any different way. I don't think it kind of sucks, but maybe this is just the best way to do it. We'll have to see. They keep on working on it. They keep on trying to make the system better. They keep on trying to make it so that the format's better. And in most ways, the format was better this split than it has been. So
I would agree.
it's you kind of got to just take the good with the bad. Like the fact that they've been able to space it out as much as they have, I hate it as a viewer, but I'm thankful for the players that they get a little bit more breaks. They don't feel so gassed out, hopefully, coming back from a Masters event, things like that. So, I don't know. That's just some extra thoughts. But we have time to think about it. We have time to think about the groups. We have time to think about all the different roster moves that might be coming in, things like that, because we just got to wait. At this point, we're waiting until June the 7th until the next games will be. VCT Pacific finishes off this weekend. VCT EMEA finishes off next weekend. And then we'll be able to have our full look at all of the teams going to Toronto. So that's going to kind of wrap it up for us here. Sticks, any shout outs before we end our podcast today?
Uh, dare I say buy the Sen bundle?
You
That
definitely
is
can say that.
no, that's kind of all I got. I mean, make sure because I know I personally am trying to be more active on my own stuff. So I mean, if you want to see the stream of consciousness, follow me, I guess.
Sure.
Also follow Lance because he is less active but still fun. Um, yeah. Oh
Totally.
yeah, and obviously we've said it a few times. Join the Discord.
Yes.
because that's a good place. Not only if you're just getting into Valorant esports, that's a really good place to kind of start to hang out with people that also like
Mm-hmm.
Valorant and like Valorant esports. It's really interesting. I promise. All of this stuff is. I only got into it after Masters Madrid last year, but it's
Yeah.
taken over my life. So it could take over yours too if you join the Discord.
Yeah. I will say, I was following. I followed 100 Thieves basically from the start of the company until now, and that's kind of what's gotten me into all these different esports. I started following Call of Duty, which is a fun esport to follow. Would definitely recommend that if you have extra time. Um, and then I followed League of Legends for a long time as well. And I will say, out of the two Riot games, in my opinion, I've quite enjoyed the Valorant esport a lot more than League of Legends, just because, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to get into. It's a lot easier to understand. It's not hard to understand that if I shoot somebody, that they're gonna die, and that means that my team's gonna win. Um, a little less confusing than random. Well, it's a little more confusing now with all the util, but that's besides the point. Um,
So at its core, it's an FPS game. You shoot the other team, they die, you win. Like that's
exactly.
the core of it.
Yeah. So exactly like Stick said, right? If you are new to the esport, if you want to know more about the esport, definitely join our Discord. Sticks and I are both kind of newer to it within the past year or couple years at the very least. So um, the community is pretty awesome. There's a lot of people who will be weird and but you'll find that anywhere. So our goal is to make our community not weird and be nice to people and things like that. So that's what we're gonna push. That's what we're gonna be. Um, I do want to shout out. We talked about a little bit. I want to shout out Apex, the EMEA team, just because
Yes.
they are going through it right now. So shout out Floor. Hopefully everything's all good with her, and hopefully she's able to come back. It would be a shame if we don't see her either, whether it be in Game Changers again or VCT. I want it to be VCT because I think that
Yeah,
that would be
same.
awesome.
I want to see Floor play again in Americas.
Yeah,
That's my dream.
that would
I
be
feel like if
sick.
she imagine, okay, hang on. Fluorescent on energy.
That would be interesting.
I think that would be fun.
I think it would be fun. I
I
could
know
see
I
it.
know we have Mata on energy, but like Floor.
Yeah, that would be good. The We'll have to see how next season goes or how this season goes and roster talks for next season because I think that Floor definitely has a place in Americas if some of these people
100%.
keep on doing what they've been doing. Um,
Yeah.
that would be my bet. But on top of that, Governor also has announced that he's going to be taking the rest of the season off too from Apex because he's been injured. So he's, going to give his body some time to recover and things from that. I would also love to see Governor come back to Americas.
I like Governor. I didn't really I think I told you this. I didn't really know who he was before he joined Apex.
Yeah,
Um, but then like watching him on Apex, he's just so fun to watch.
yeah, he
And
just
I feel
seems
like I
like a
know I
fun
say
guy.
that about a lot of players, but he was very fun to watch. So I want to see him back in VCT, whether it's EMEA or Americas. I prefer Americas, but EMEA is fine too, I guess.
Yep.
Um,
As
but
long as I
yeah,
can watch these guys play, that's all I want to see. So, anyways,
exactly.
shout out Apex. Hopefully, their stage 2 goes better than our other Ascension teams, and they have a chance at making it to the playoffs. But that remains to be seen. We've shouted it out a bunch of times, but make sure you join our Discord. That's where you're going to be up to date on all of our podcasts when episodes go live. Once we finally make short form content, which your boy has been meaning to get into, just has been sick and traveling. So we will see what happens. But join us next week. Like I said, check out our Discord. That's when we'll tell you when we're going live, and you can join us. Actually, we can hear your voice, and you can share your voice with the world as you plant your take. So join us next week. We'll be going live again Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and hopefully we will see you all there. So thank you guys. If you watch this, thank you again, Blemish. Shout out our number one viewer and first viewer, and maybe we'll shout you out next time if you join. So we will see you next week, but thank you, take care, and see you then. Bye bye.
See ya.